Hi, welcome to the, I believe, sixth part of the seventh part of the lecture on the discrimination and in the labor market, which is part of the lecture of the gender economics course. This lecture series is prepared for the Milos Technical University Northern Cyprus campus. And we were talking on the different theories on discrimination, and we have covered the taste of discrimination and statistical discrimination models, and we were now looking to the overcrowding model and the institutional distribution. Basically, actually, both models are pretty simple ones. Moment, let's go here. Moment. Here is the article. Overcrowding model is basically based on the idea that male and female jobs might be separated from each other. Actually, you don't have one market, but basically two labor markets that are separated from each other. Based on this, that based on the idea that the skills of men and women are different, so they cannot do same jobs. So necessarily they have separate labor markets in the economic system. And basically, the idea here states when you have more women joining to the labor market, this would lead to increase in the labor supply in the female labor market, and basically when you have less men in the labor market, this leads a decrease in the supply in the male labor market. And this basically, I mean, as the labor force, female labor force increase, this will lead to a decrease in wage, and as the male labor force increase, this will lead to an increase in the male wage. And this might basically, and recently, basically, as more women joined the labor force and slightly the number of men, I mean, percentage of men in the labor force has decreased, this might have created, some kind of a wage gap in the labor market, actually. Of course, we might ask, if this model is the case, first, I mean, when you have no overcrowding, when you have less women in the labor market, the wages of the women should be similar to the wages of the males. That's one thing. So maybe this increase in supply in the female labor market might be also extending the demand for the female labor in the market, and maybe these decreases are just temporary occurrences. As long as if there's more or less a constant wage gap in the labor market, at least we might say, I mean, this overcrowding might just have a temporary effect in increasing that wage gap, and then it will return to the old level. But then we might also ask, why is there no mobility between the male and the female labor market, especially when the wage is sufficiently low? Maybe certain male jobs might be given to the woman, and that might be actually a case where the male jobs, male occupations are invaded by the woman, with the help of course, the employers in this case. Lastly, we should also say that, again, if the demand is, supply is higher in this labor market and supply is low in this market, we might also have a transformation of the economic system. I mean, economic system composition of the economic system might change. And basically, I mean, here, because costs are in this sector that are employing more female labor is low, maybe there will be more investments in this sector, and as a result, again, the demand for female jobs might increase, and demand for male jobs might decrease as a result of relatively high costs. So this is the overcrowding. Now, institutional discrimination model basically takes into account the what happens internally in the labor market. I mean, the way the way the job advancements happen. I mean, the promotions happen inside of the workplace. And while in the entrance of the labor market, men and women might be equal, internal advancements in the job in a company might very well act maybe like a monopoly, and there, I mean, the there actually the traditional competition rules might not necessarily work that much. Well, we might think maybe for the woman, well, they might, if job advancements in a company for the woman is not that much common than in another company, maybe they might choose the company where they are more able to advance. Although I don't know, maybe at the beginning, they might also want to go to a company where there is a possibility of moving up in the ladder, and those companies might be very large companies, so the options might be more limited for the woman, especially when they also are restricted with the geography. And as we have seen, once you got into the company, well, men are more likely to get trainings, and men are more likely to advance in the company ladders, while women are more likely to stay inside of the at the rather lower stages of the ladder. And as we have seen, I mean, because the number of the institutions where those ladder exists might be anyway low, basically women might not have any option but get to the companies where their ability to advance is actually relatively not that much possible. Well, similarly, women might be more necessarily go to the secondary labor market, while men might be basically going to the primary labor market. And secondary labor market is considered as labor market where advancement in jobs are more limited. You basically stay at the same position for years and years, but it might be maybe more flexible. Basically, that's one point of it. We already talked on this. I mean, the woman might be going to the secondary labor market, and in the primary labor market where advancements are possible, maybe the jobs are more strict, and maybe women are not able to get those jobs. And in both cases, I mean, if actually this might be even at a higher position, maybe at the same position like the primary jobs, maybe a little bit higher. So at the entrance level, actually, women and men might be getting at a similar level of wage when they enter to the labor market. But as time passes, because women are stuck in the secondary labor job market or secondary labor market jobs, while men are able to advance in the primary labor market jobs, or even if they are at similar type of jobs, if the women are staying at the lower portions of the ladder, while men are able to move up, this might basically create the wage differences between the men and women. And it might be discrimination if it is basically based on the company culture, company's existing structure, basically. Well, even though women and men are similarly productive in the entry-level jobs or primary and secondary level jobs, the job characteristics or institutional culture might make them end up earning different level of income. Lastly, the article, well, as the final thing, also talks on the feedback, basically, between the labor market and the family. I mean, when you have labor market conditions as of the woman poor, more of them might stay in the family and see them as themselves as secondary earners. But when they see that, then their ability to commit in the labor market will be will be weakened, and as a result, basically, their labor market opportunities might also get smaller. So you might have a cycle here, actually. I mean, as because labor market opportunities are inferior for women, they are more likely to stay at home. But because they are at home and get the primary responsibilities of at home as their jobs, but when they stay at home and they got the primary household duties as their responsibilities, well, in return, they might not get sufficient. They might not be sufficiently productive in the labor market and get lower wages, and they might also get discriminated in the labor market because they cannot get into the workplace culture. And I mean, even if individual women try to do that, I mean, people might assume they are also unproductive because women in general are thought to be less productive. Anyway, this is for this much for the theories of the discrimination. Now we might talk on the different policies that are adopted against the discrimination. The first one is the Anti-Discrimination Act. That's the United States, of course, and the act was, let's see the date of the act. I think there are different acts, actually. One of them was in 1963, and this was Equal Pay Act, which means the payments for the same job should be the same, independent of, I mean, the race, the gender, the religion, basically. And basically, this Equal Pay Act was brought kind of like for the race mainly, and religion, and national origin, and gender. According to my instructor in the University of Utah, actually, she has told the story. They have put the gender to discourage the people who are advocating for this law to pass the law, because they think gender will defer them, but actually gender remained in the law by the people, and it was brought into the law by the people who opposed the law, but it remained there and it passed with the gender in it, so it became illegal to pay a person, a woman, less than man, just because of their gender when they do same job, basically, after this law. Of course, the definition of same job can very well change, and that is actually the law is actually creating a lot of let's say space companies can use to pay women less. I mean, they might easily argue the positions that are taken by men and women are not the same, actually. I mean, they might give different names and slightly different responsibilities, maybe. And then in later, I mean, there are other laws, but later in 1990s there was another act. You can see all the other steps. This new act make it illegal to also promote, or employ from two person, one of them, basically one of the two persons that are available for you, just because of their, again, gender, or let's say race, or religion, or national origin. So now it is not only illegal to discriminate based on the payment. I mean, not only the payment discrimination, but also other types of discriminations were prohibited.